Sometimes in life, the best option is to walk away despite not knowing what is out there waiting for you. But at least that one person isn't hurting you anymore. Ezra was a child at a point in life, just like every one of us. She wanted love, biscuits, sweets, and her parents, of course. But it was not too long before her parents shipped her off to her uncle's place. As a child, she expected to find love everywhere she went. What else do you expect from that innocent mind of hers? Ezra lived with her auntie, and yes, she wasn't really an outcast. But there was just a little issue. Her auntie's first daughter didn't like her so well, but she didn't mind. She did the necessary things needed in the house. Even if some days it felt like hell, but she was good. She was at least treated right. Moreover, she wasn't really their daughter. Era grew up and met a good-looking man called Jack, and she was happy because she felt God had finally smiled on her. Her auntie was against the relationship. In their terms, Delta men don't know how to take care of their woman, and she fought with her sisters a lot. The house became unbearable to stay in, and it was time for her to move out. Jake also managed to secure a small-paying job for her, but around this time, Jack had an accident at the company where he worked, and Ezra was there for him every step of the way. She eventually moved in with him, and she became pregnant. This was the beginning of Ezra's problems. He became more cruel, toxic, and both physically and emotionally abusive. Jake became a shadow of the man she used to know. Some days they were fine, and some other days it was hell for Ezra. She kept going and worked hard in the best way she could to provide. She was expecting a mini-her. Ezra finally gave birth to a boy and named him Junior. Here was the beginning of Ezra's problems. Jake went to do the traditional rites, and they got married officially. Ezra is a very hard-working lady. She had to do any mini job that came her way to put food on the table in order to assist her husband. She hawked and sold on the street. But Jake was never a good husband to Ezra. He would beat her up at any chance he got. He beat her up one day to the extent that her son, Junior, had to rush to save his mum. But he also got his own share of the beating for trying to help her. Ezra loves God so much, she would always run to God. She believed that God would definitely come to her rescue. Just like what most people would say, God will change him. Ezra gave birth to another child and named her Elizabeth. 4 years later, she became pregnant again with their third child. Jack did not want this pregnancy, especially because they had already aborted one before. But he eventually agreed to keep this baby. Ezra later gave birth to a girl and named her Mercy. Jake wasn't just abusive, he was a cheater. Ezra, a kind and selfless woman, even helped a lady in need by letting her stay with them despite her own struggles. But what Ezra later discovered would shock anyone. She later discovered Jake was sleeping with the same woman she tried to help. She sent the lady away, and as always, forgave Jake, hoping he would change one day. Ezra went to church against Jake's orders. When he found out, he beat her badly. She ran to the church in tears, and the pastor took interest in her case and began counseling Jake. After much effort, Jake gave his life to Christ and changed for a while, which felt like a dream come true for Ezra. Ezra later gave birth to 2 more children, Miracle and Johnson. Though life improved spiritually, it did not improve financially. After relocating, they stopped attending that church. Jake then claimed God told him to start his own ministry and stop working, leaving Ezra as the sole provider while the ministry struggled to grow. Ezra worked long hours, often returning late to cook for the family. Sometimes her children cooked while she was away, yet she never missed church. God blessed her businesses, which sold out frequently, and she took on many hustles to survive. Ezra helped everyone she could in the church, sharing cooked and raw food even when she had little. She believed her calling was to help others. Though not perfect, she deeply loved her husband and children and would do anything for them. A woman named Blessing joined the church with her abandoned child. Ezra treated her like a sister, providing food, clothes, and emotional support without reservation. This later became the biggest problem of Ezra's life. Ezra discovered that Jake was having an affair with Blessing inside the church itself. Devastated, Ezra realized the pain she thought was over had only just begun. Jake then demanded a second wife, justifying it with biblical figures and claiming God would forgive him because he was a prophet. Ezra was speechless, but her daughter Elizabeth firmly opposed him, saying she would never allow it. Elizabeth, Jake's favorite child, chose humanity over favoritism and stood by her mother, defending her feelings and dignity. Weeks later, Jake discovered Elizabeth was 5 months pregnant. Seeking revenge for her opposition, he forced her to abort the pregnancy, despite pleas from the family and the child's father offering marriage. At just 17, Elizabeth agreed, sacrificing herself to keep peace and protect her mother. On the morning of the abortion, Mercy dreamt Elizabeth would not return and begged her to stay. Elizabeth insisted she would be fine. Ezra, Elizabeth, and a church member went ahead. Just before the injection, Jake called for her to be brought home. But Elizabeth sensed danger and chose to proceed. She never returned. Elizabeth died during the abortion. Ezra did not cry or speak after her daughter's death. She remained silent even as Elizabeth was buried. The house stayed quiet for nearly 3 months. During that time, Jake planned his wedding and married in the 3rd month, showing no concern for anyone's pain. Afterward, the church members Ezra once helped turned against her, questioning her generosity. Ezra was shocked. Her first son, always weak and silent, said nothing even when his mother was treated unjustly. After the marriage, Jake expected Ezra to forgive him and move on as usual. This time, Ezra chose herself and her children. She blamed herself for not running when she could, realizing she stayed for a commitment that was already gone. She told Jake she would not leave the house, not as his wife but as a mother. She would stay for her children and would not allow the woman who betrayed her to raise them. Jake knew Ezra was kind but dangerous when pushed. To force her back into submission, he turned violent again, worse than before, breaking her hand and scarring her body. Sometimes, the children had to protect their mother. The first son pretended nothing was wrong, going to school as if the chaos at home didn't exist. Mercy was forced to grow up early and become the responsible child. She defended her mother whenever she could, which made Jake despise her even more. Jake tried to control Mercy with threats and fear, but it didn't work. She hated him just as deeply, and he knew she would never submit. Mercy grew up carrying deep trauma stories for another day. One day, all the children will speak about how that life shaped them. But today is Ezra's story. Ezra stayed not for Jake, but to protect her children. She didn't want them sent away like she once was. Mercy wished Ezra had chosen a better life, yet remained grateful she wasn't abandoned. When the children finally moved out, Ezra left too. Jake was angry, but he could no longer hurt her. She wasn't financially stable, but she was finally at peace. Through it all, Ezra never lost her faith in God. She believed that one day, he would answer her. Sometimes leaving is better than staying. Even now, Mercy wonders if Ezra made the right choice, and wishes she had been selfish just once. For her own happiness,